Exposed: How a billionaire's incredible sacrifice gave new life to a single dad's dying daughter. Dave wiped the sweat from his brow as he leaned over the engine of an old Ford, the grease-stained coveralls sticking to his skin. Despite the sweltering heat, his thoughts raced with despair. Every tick of the clock echoed the urgency of his situation, a relentless reminder of the mounting medical bills that threatened to bury him. Lily's laughter, once a melody in their cramped little home, had faded into an unpredictable silence after her diagnosis. With each passing day, the weight of his struggle pressed harder against his chest, making it feel like the world was closing in. His hands, skilled at fixing broken engines, felt useless against the disease clawing at his daughter's spirit. He yearned to promise her the sun and moon, to make everything right, but reality often told a different story. Every tiny scrape or bruise she faced escalated his panic. The treatments, the consultations, it all spiraled, leaving him clinging to the frayed edges of desperation. Would he continue to take on extra shifts at the shop, risking his own health? Or would he reach a breaking point he feared would shatter them both? A sudden honking jerked Dave from his thoughts. He stepped outside to see a sleek black SUV that stood in stark contrast to the worn vehicles in his lot. The driver, a tall man with a stoic demeanor, got out with an air of detachment. Dave could tell this wasn't just any customer. The wretch often had a way of turning their surroundings into their private kingdom. Yet on this hot afternoon, it was more than just his curiosity. It was an opportunity, a fleeting chance to escape the gravity of his current life, even if just for a moment. "Need a hand?" Dave called, forcing himself to adopt a cheerful tone, but an underlying apprehension crept into his voice. The man shrugged, barely acknowledging the offer, before he moved toward the hood, examining his own problem. "What seems to be the issue?" Dave asked, stepping closer, his instincts to help overwhelming his reservations. "Fuel pump," the man replied curtly, glancing up. There was something in his eyes, a flicker of pain mingled with the indifference that seemed almost rehearsed. As Dave got to work, they began talking, the conversation slowly peeling back layers. The man, Jack Harrington, revealed little but spoke of loss, a hint of grief buried beneath the surface, reminiscent of Dave's own fears. It was a moment when the world outside faded, leaving two fathers united by heart-wrenching memories. "Kids, they change everything, don't they?" Jack said quietly, his gaze distant, as if he could see beyond the garage walls. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue." Dave nodded, the words hanging heavy in the air. "Yeah," he managed through gritted teeth, "they really do." But while Jack's loss seemed to be a distant nightmare, Dave was living in a waking horror. Each tick of Lily's health stripped away the layers of his resolve, leaving him raw and exposed. As the sun began to set, the discussion shifted back to lives fractured by illness, unearthing anguish and regret as the mechanics of fate intertwined their paths. Jack's silence grew more profound, and Dave instinctively felt that there was a bond forming, one that could either lift him up or lead him to new depths of despair. As he stared at Jack, a profound question formed in the back of his mind. Could this enigmatic figure be an unlikely ally, or was he just another ghost of failed promises? A rush of conflicting emotions surged through Dave. The small glimmer of hope that flickered felt both like a lifeline and an unbearable weight. Was it too late for both of them to escape the shadows? The stakes were rising, and as the last rays of sunlight faded, the burden of trust hung in the balance, threatening to tip over into darkness. In this charged atmosphere, the question lingered: what sacrifices would both men be forced to confront to save what they held dear? The following morning, a restless night had left Dave feeling more drained than usual. The weight of yesterday's conversation with Jack pressed down on him like a leaden blanket. He couldn't shake the feeling that Jack might hold the key to something greater, an opportunity, perhaps. But the nagging self-doubt clawed at him. What difference could one man make in the grand scheme of fate? As he arrived at the garage, Dave opened the heavy bay doors, the sunlight pouring in to illuminate a space cluttered with memories of hard work. He was an expert mechanic, having learned the trade from his father. But today, the familiar sense of oil and gasoline felt suffocating. The usual routine seemed mundane, rendered irrelevant against the backdrop of his daughter's worsening condition. He threw himself into work, attempting to drown out the chaos of his thoughts. Each repair came with a sense of accomplishment, yet the joy of fixing cars paled in comparison to his heart's desire to fix the unfixable, Lily's illness. He shook his head as he wiped his brow, wrestling with feelings both bitter and hopeful. Midway through the day, a flicker of corporate interest caught his attention. A representative from Harrington Industries had called earlier, asking for a meeting. The notion sent a jolt through him. Maybe Jack was not just a chance encounter after all. Perhaps he had seen something in him. What if this meeting was an opportunity to not only improve his finances, but also to connect deeper with the man whose life mirrored his own? As the clock ticked closer to the meeting time, doubt twisted in his stomach like a tightly coiled spring. What if he stumbled over his words? What if he didn't belong in the same room as a man like Jack? But desperation has a way of sharpening clarity. He couldn't let fear dictate his decisions any longer. He needed to gather the fragments of his courage and approach this as more than just a business meeting. It could be a lifeline. The spacious conference room stood intimidatingly large, its walls lined with polished mahogany and large windows overlooking the city. Jack was already there, leaning back in his chair with an air of confidence that made Dave's heart race. Here was a man who had faced loss, yet still stood tall. "Dave," Jack greeted him with an almost imperceptible nod, "thank you for coming." They exchanged pleasantries, but the underlying gravity of their meeting weighed heavily. Jack began outlining the potential partnership between their two worlds. Harrington Industries needed repairs for their fleet of vehicles, and Dave's shop could be just the solution. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday," Jack said, his tone shifting to something deeper. "Kids change everything. I want to support families like yours too, in whatever way I can." The words struck a chord. Dave felt a surge of gratitude mixed with skepticism. Was Jack genuinely offering help, or was it merely another transaction in a world laden with exchanges of value? "I'm willing to expand my business," Dave replied, his voice stronger than he felt. "If it means I can afford better treatments for Lily, but I need to know you're not just offering me pity." Jack's eyes darkened, revealing the pain contained within. "This isn't pity. It's a recognition of shared struggle. You deserve more than just survival, Dave." As they talked, a quiet determination began to replace the remnants of his doubt. The realization washed over Dave that perhaps he could blend his passion for mechanics with a newfound purpose driven by fatherhood. The conversation flowed, each word weaving a thread of connection between them. By the end, Dave grasped that this meeting was just the beginning. He was not merely a desperate father clutching at a fleeting chance. He was beginning to reclaim his path, and with that, the chance to fight for his daughter. As he walked out, a fire lit within him. He realized he held the reins of his destiny tighter than ever. But the time had come to confront the deeper fears he harbored inside. Trusting someone like Jack could lead to failure, yet standing still meant certain loss. The city skyline loomed ahead, glittering with potential. Dave took a deep breath, ready to forge ahead, but still questioning what the future held. Would stepping into Jack's world pull him deeper into the shadows or illuminate a path he could never have imagined? The answer lay just beyond reach. The next morning, after an uneasy sleep, Dave awoke with renewed energy. Yet the shadows of uncertainty loomed over him like storm clouds. The previous day's meeting had ignited a spark, but it also brought forth a torrent of questions. Jack's kind words resonated deeply. They made him wonder if he had what it took to expand his business and, in doing so, provide for Lily in a way he had only dreamt of. He arrived at the garage early, the cool air invigorating him as he stepped inside. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the grime and grease stains that told stories of tenacity. Today was a day for action, but he needed clarity. He paused, looking around, letting the familiar sights settle his racing thoughts. Maybe today would be different. Maybe today he would take the first tangible step toward change. After a couple of hours tinkering with old engines, Dave pulled out a notepad. He had promised Jack he would consider expanding his services, but the logistical ramifications flooded in as soon as he put pen to paper. Would he need to hire more staff? Invest in new equipment? Such decisions weighed heavy on his mind, but the glimmer of a brighter future urged him to dive deeper. Each figure he calculated added to a growing sense of frustration. Starting with the financial risks, the possibilities twisted around in his mind, spiraling into doubts. A few close friends had failed in similar endeavors, and their stories echoed around him like warning bells. But then he thought of Lily, her laughter, her love, and the fears began to dissolve. This wasn't just about numbers. It was about finding a way to fight for her life. The decision broached a deeper moral dilemma for Dave. Was it selfish to put himself out there professionally when it could mean risking stability? He could remain in his comfort zone, one foot planted firmly in the familiar territory of the garage. But keeping Lily's health in mind, the murky waters of mediocrity glimmered with the potential for regret. Day by day would simply mean more time lost, time that he couldn't afford. The door chimed, bringing him back to reality. It was Angie, his childhood friend and accountant. She moved around the shop easily, her presence a calming force. "Got time to go over some numbers?" she asked, her brow slightly raised. "Yeah, I could use your input," Dave admitted. As they sat down, he laid out his ambitions and aspirations. Her face transformed from curiosity to intrigue as he spoke. She could see the fire in his eyes, ignited by a father's love and desperation to do more. "Dave, this is huge. You're not just talking about expanding, you're talking about creating a legacy," she said, enthusiasm spilling from her voice. "But you need to be ready to scale." She continued by probing into his motives. "What's your end game, though? Is it just about the money? Because if it is, I think you're making a mistake." "No, it's Lily. Everything I do is for her sake. I want to give her the best possible chance," he replied, feeling the weight of authenticity in his words. Angie's gaze softened, an understanding passing between them. "Then let's build this business like it matters, not just for profit, but so you can secure a future. It's time to turn your dreams into something tangible." The realization hit him like a brick. This journey was not just about financial gain, it was about purpose. He felt propelled forward, ready to harness each moment, pushing against the inertia that had held him back for far too long. After Angie left, the garage felt different, less like a refuge and more like a launch pad. He needed to craft a plan, to engage with Jack about not just a partnership, but a vision. As evening fell, the city lights flickered on, and with them, inspiration sparked in Dave's mind. He would take the plunge and schedule a follow-up meeting with Jack. This was not merely about expanding a business. It would be about redefining his very life. Just as he felt a rush of resolve, a text buzzed on his phone. It was a message from Jack. "I believe you can do this, Dave. Let's plot our next move together." The words settled into Dave's heart, swelling with determination. He could sense the pivotal moment approaching. His next steps could make or break everything. Could he trust Jack enough to share his vulnerabilities? Could he open himself up to success while risking potential heartache? The stakes were rising, and the night felt electric with possibility. What lay ahead would truly test him, but for the first time in a long while, uncertainty also felt thrilling. As he delved deeper into planning, he could almost hear his heart beating in sync with the voice in his mind whispering the key truth. The time had come to face his fears once and for all. It was not just about business, it was about his family's future, and he was ready to fight for it. Would this leap of faith bridge the gap between despair and hope, or would it pull him deeper into the unknown? The following morning brought a radiant sun that felt almost surreal, as if urging Dave to embrace this new chapter. With a sense of urgency, he poured himself a cup of coffee and stared out the window. The city bustled below him, a symphony of ambition, dreams, and life. He reflected on his plans, the numbers playing like a melody in his mind, each note representing the potential for his future and Lily's. But the thrill of hope was laced with trepidation. Could he truly step outside the comfort zone he had known for so long? His fingers danced over the keyboard as he drafted an email to Jack, carefully structuring his thoughts. He highlighted his aspirations, the vision of not just a garage, but a community hub for car enthusiasts, a place where families could come to learn and grow together. It felt exhilarating to envision something larger than himself. As he hit send, a quiet thrill coursed through him. This was a declaration, a commitment. Arriving at the garage that afternoon, Dave's heart raced as he prepared for his meeting with Jack. It was more than just another discussion. This was a pivotal point in his journey, one that could alter the trajectory of their lives. He straightened up his workspace, cleaning the clutter, as if symbolically clearing his mind of distractions and fears. When Jack arrived, he found Dave deep in thought, staring at blueprints sprawled on the table. The excitement was palpable between them as they discussed the logistics, the potential risks and rewards. Jack was invigorated by Dave's enthusiasm, but brought forth crucial questions to challenge him. What's your backup plan if things don't go as expected? It's great to dream big, but what if the dream turns into a nightmare? Then I'll pivot, Dave replied, the words surprisingly firm. I won't let fear dictate my decisions anymore. I can't afford to hide behind what's familiar when it comes to Lily's future. Jack's eyes sparkled, impressed by Dave's determination. That's the spirit, but you need to build a support network. You can't do this alone. With that seed planted, a cascade of thoughts took root in Dave's mind. He began to realize there were other people besides Jack who could contribute to this vision. What about the local community, other businesses? His mind buzzed with possibilities. Could he collaborate with other entrepreneurs, share resources, and create a cohesive project? After their meeting, Dave made a series of calls. Some were to friends, others to business associates, and with each conversation, his confidence solidified. He discovered that many shared his vision. They wanted to support not only his endeavors, but potentially collaborate. This unexpected network of allies began to fragment his solitude, showing him that he was not alone in this fight for more than just survival. The questioning didn't stop there. As his plans flourished, doubts crept back in. Was he prepared for the spotlight, willing to expose his vulnerabilities to those around him? The very thought of failure whispered in his ear, reminding him of those friends who had stumbled in their journeys. Yet Dave found himself able to confront these fears. He focused on what had driven him to this point, the relentless love for his daughter. No setback could outweigh that motivation. He took a leap, drafting a detailed proposal for a collaborative initiative. The words flowed unfiltered from his heart, as he articulated not only his dreams, but shared his journey and plight. As he prepared to send out the proposal, he paused, feeling the weight of uncertainty. Sending this document wasn't just a professional move, it was throwing caution into the wind, inviting others to join him on this tumultuous road. The act felt liberating, the kind of risk that could either soar or crumble. With his finger lingering over the mouse, the question hung in the air. Was he ready to stake everything on this vision? Just as he pressed send, a new message pinged on his phone, a reminder about a networking event happening that night. Immediately, a rush of urgency surged through him. This could be the opportunity to present his ideas, to network beyond his immediate circle, to put himself out there in front of strangers, potential investors, mentors, allies. Heart thumping, Dave's thoughts crystallized into resolve. This was the moment to weave the threads of his ambitions into a coherent tapestry. He could no longer afford to hesitate. He had to embrace the unknown. The night awaited him, ready to unveil the next set of challenges. But for the first time, he felt like he was charging toward them, not running away. What awaited him at the event? Was he ready to confront the deeper implications of his desires, the possibility of failure, but also the intoxicating allure of success? As he walked toward his car, each step felt heavy yet exhilarating, a reminder that he was choosing to fight for both his family's future and his own growth. Would that night alter the course of the journey he had just begun? The venue bustled with energy as Dave stepped through the entrance, the chatter of voices and the clinking of glasses enveloping him like a warm embrace. But beneath this veneer of excitement, his heart raced with unfamiliar anxiety. The room was filled with faces he didn't recognize, each representing a potential opportunity or threat. He felt as if he were standing on the edge of a diving board, peering into the depths below. He took a moment to steady himself, breathing in the scent of polished wood and expensive cologne. Right now, Dave was not just a single father hoping to build his dreams. He was an entrepreneur ready to present his vision. Yet insecurity whispered that he was out of his league. The well-dressed crowd appeared so assured of themselves. They radiated an aura of accomplishment that made his palms sweat. Dave pushed those thoughts aside, reminding himself of Lily and why he was here. He hadn't come this far to curl back into the shadows. As he scanned the room for familiar faces, he spotted Jack chatting animatedly with a group. Encouraged, Dave made his way toward them, determined to conquer the unease swirling in his gut. Jack's presence would serve as his anchor. "Dave, I'm glad you made it." Jack's voice broke through the din, pulling him from his thoughts. "Let me introduce you to some people." As they mingled, Dave soaked in everything: the quick exchanges, the palpable enthusiasm, the deft networking. He began to understand it wasn't just about what you knew, but who you connected with. Conversations flowed effortlessly as Jack introduced him to potential investors, local business owners, and even a few seasoned mentors. However, as he listened to their success stories, self-doubt bubbled up again. What would they see when they looked at him? A risk? An amateur? Or, worse yet, another face in the crowd without a compelling vision? Pushing through those insecurities, he found himself engaged in a discussion about innovative garage concepts. Fueled by his passion, he spoke animatedly about his vision, the community hub he longed to create. As if ignited by his enthusiasm, the listeners leaned closer, hanging on his every word. But doubt still lingered, lurking in the shadows. Would this be enough to sway them? What if they turned out to be just like the skeptics he had faced before? Just as he finished explaining one of his more ambitious ideas, a sharp voice cut through the conversation like a knife. "Sounds lofty, but what's your experience in this field?" Dave turned to face a young entrepreneur named Melissa, who stood with her arms crossed, skepticism etched on her face. An intangible tension charged the air. On one hand, he could feel his instincts urging him to retreat, to let her dismiss him. Yet on the other, he was burdened by the weight of his aspirations, feeling an undeniable need to protect what he had built in his mind. "My experience may not be conventional," he admitted, "but it's rooted in determination and love, not just for my craft, but for my daughter's future. I'm not just dreaming, I'm committed to making it a reality." The words resonated, and he could see a flicker of interest in the eyes of others around him. What started as uncertainty was morphing into conviction. Perhaps he could channel that initial fear into momentum. Melissa's expression softened slightly, and she continued to engage, probing deeper into his proposal. The sharpness in her voice lessened, revealing an unexpected curiosity. As the conversation progressed, Dave realized that he was shedding the layers of self-doubt, an armor forged from life's challenges. He had honed his communication skills talking to Lily, explaining the world to her in ways she could understand. Now, he was using those same skills to articulate his vision. The evening wore on, and as people came and went, Dave felt an emotional tide shift within himself. Networking had once seemed daunting, but with each exchange, he discovered not only allies, but revelations about his own capabilities. He felt more than just a single dad in over his head. He was an architect of dreams, weaving connections that might actually matter. As he moved through the crowd, buoyed by newfound confidence and unexpected acceptance, he felt a tap on his shoulder. Turning, he found Jack, sporting a grin that made his heart race with anticipation. "Have you spoken to anyone from the financing panel? I believe they'd be interested in your story." The mention of the panel sent a rush of adrenaline coursing through him. This was the moment he hadn't anticipated, but here it was, laid bare before him. A chance to elevate his vision in front of those who could help make it tangible. Was he ready to capitalize on this momentum? This time, doubt no longer chained him down, but instead propelled him forward, urging him to seize the moment. As he made his way through the crowd, his heart thudded in his chest, not from fear, but from the thrill of potential. What would happen if he succeeded in capturing their attention? Would his dreams finally take flight, or would he be left standing at yet another crossroads? The stakes had never been higher, and uncertainty hummed in his veins, setting the stage for the next decisive move in his journey. As Dave ambled through the thrumming crowd, his mind raced with possibilities and self-doubt. Jack had turned him loose, offering the lifeline of introductions that could reshape his future. The financing panel, a beacon of hope, loomed ahead, but he recognized the gravity of what stood between him and his aspirations. His steps quickened, propelled by a mix of trepidation and excitement. He spotted the panel, a trio of seasoned entrepreneurs, standing off to the side, sipping drinks while studying the crowd. They seemed poised, their expressions unreadable. Dave's heart pounded. In that moment, he understood that he wasn't just selling a business plan. He was offering a fragment of his identity, a bridge between his past and an uncertain future, shaped by ambition and love. With each step, fragments of his life surged in his mind. Lily's laugh echoed, reminding him why he couldn't stumble at this juncture. The vision of a community space, a hub where creativity churned and reflected the vibrancy of life, swirled in his imagination. This wasn't merely an idea, it was a lifeline for them both. "Deep breath, Dave," he murmured to himself, grounding his thoughts. He ran his palms along his shirt, then approached the panel, feeling the electricity of opportunity crackling in the air. The closer he got, the clearer his resolve. "Excuse me," he began, voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. "I'm Dave Reynolds, and I'd love to share my vision with you." They turned to face him, interest piqued. Immediately he felt that familiar rush of anxiety, but instead of letting it consume him, he channeled it. Imagine a space where creativity meets utility. I'm talking about a garage that serves not only as a workspace, but as a community resource, where people can share ideas, tools, and inspiration. A place designed for everyone. He could see them leaning in, their bodies shifting forward. Mentally, he combated the onslaught of doubts that whispered, "What if they dismiss you?" This time, though, he silenced those thoughts with clarity. I know my experience isn't traditional. I'm not just an architect. I'm a single father who has put everything on the line for a vision that matters." The woman on the panel, an experienced financer, nodded thoughtfully. "What sets your idea apart from existing community spaces?" Dave paused, the question igniting a deeper instinct. "What makes this unique is that it starts from a personal place, a father's wish to create opportunities for his daughter. This space won't just host workshops and events. It will foster relationships, launching ideas from mere thoughts to tangible projects. My journey has taught me that collaboration is essential, and every voice deserves to be heard." The panelists exchanged glances, and he took their silence as an invitation to press on. "I've been living in fear of failure, but my daughter deserves a future where imagination thrives. Every setback I've faced has fueled this desire, and I'm committed to crafting a space that embodies resilience." He observed their expressions shift, curiosity mixed with contemplation. Dave's heart surged, imagining Lily running through that space, filled with laughter and joy among others. But as he shared his fervor, a sense of vulnerability washed over him. This was no longer just about his dreams. It was about delivering something that could hold real meaning for others. "This isn't just business. It's a mission," he concluded, a ripple of determination shaping his voice. The panelists smiled faintly, a flicker of intrigue in their eyes. "A mission, indeed," the financer replied. "But your energy is infectious, and we need to know more about how you plan to execute this vision." A rush of relief and excitement coursed through him. Was he still vulnerable? Yes, but now he felt empowered. They had invited him into a dialogue, recognizing the ember of potential beneath his bold assertions. Just as he let hope take root, Melissa appeared at his elbow, an unexpected presence. "I heard your pitch," she said, her tone softer. "You did well, but I think there's more to uncover." Surprised but intrigued, Dave met her gaze. "You think so?" "Absolutely. But it may take some humility on your part. The industry won't just accept passion. You'll need strategy, too." Every word caught his attention like an anchor. Within that moment, the stakes crystallized. Was he ready to face the depths of his inadequacies to strengthen his vision? This was no leisurely stroll. It was a reckoning. "Where do we start?" he asked cautiously, a fire igniting within him for the first time. Melissa's smile grew, glimmering with unspoken challenges. "Let's find out together." Little did he know that this was merely the beginning of a steep ascent, where he'd confront not just external obstacles, but the shadows of his own fears. Caught between hope and uncertainty, he wondered what further revelations awaited him on this treacherous path toward his destiny. What secrets lay in the depths of that industry he was trying to penetrate? Would he rise to meet them, or would they plunge him into deeper waters than he had ever known? The air crackled with unspoken challenges as Dave stood beside Melissa, the weight of potential hanging between them like a taut string. Her offer to unravel the layers of his concept was more than an invitation, it was a call to arms. "Strategizing is the key. For the next few weeks, we need to dig deep," Melissa urged, her voice firm yet encouraging. "Not just the what, but the how." Dave felt a mix of exhilaration and dread surge through him. He sat with his hands clasped tightly together, his mind racing. "You're right. I've been so focused on the vision, the big picture, that I've neglected the blueprint." He spoke not just to her, but to himself. Pressure and clarity were merging into purpose. "Let's outline your goals," Melissa prompted. She produced a notepad and pen, prepared to walk him through the planning. "How will you generate interest? What partnerships can you establish? You have to think beyond the initial idea." As Dave reflected on her words, he realized this moment tested his commitment. He couldn't leap into action blindly. Strategy was no less vital than passion. I've thought about connecting with local schools and tech programs. Their students could benefit from using the space for projects, he suggested, feeling the metaphorical gears in his mind start to turn. Good start. Think larger, she said, scribbling his ideas. Reach out to local businesses. They want to invest in the community for the tax incentives. You've got more to offer than just a workspace. You're creating an incubator for innovation. Understanding dawned like sunlight breaking through clouds. It's not just about the tools and space, it's the people, he mused, feeling each word settle into place. He began to visualize the workshops, mentors, and future entrepreneurs that could fill the garage. Opportunities from every corner collected into his heartbeat. Melissa leaned over the notepad, tracing a circle around one of his points. Your story, your life, is your strongest asset. Use it. However accomplished they may be, investors engage with the human side of business. Convey what's at stake for you and your daughter. Dave nodded, the fiery intensity of his mission reflecting in his eyes. Sharing his journey wasn't just about gaining sympathy, it was a testament to his resilience. I want them to see that every setback has crafted this vision. It's about building something that lasts, something my daughter will be proud of. Yes, don't shy away from your narrative, she encouraged, her enthusiasm contagious. It shows your dedication and gives your plan a heart. The conversation sparked something within him, a clearer sense of purpose. He began naming potential allies, individuals who would resonate with his mission. What's next then? The question slipped out, eager for answers that would pull him forward. Market research comes first, she replied, a spark of determination gracing her brow. Assess your competition. Identify what gaps exist that you can fill. Understand the landscape. As they devised a plan, Dave felt a newfound energy surge through him. He realized this wasn't a solitary journey. It was a collaboration where humility and learning were paramount. What will I do when I encounter setbacks, he thought, an inward question rising to the surface. That's the real test. It would require acceptance of failure, adapting, and understanding that every misstep was an opportunity for growth. After hours of back and forth, they drafted a working outline, laying the foundation for his concept and capturing a potential business model. The hours flew by, and with each tick of the clock, he crafted not just a plan, but the framework of his newfound dedication. But as they wrapped up, a flicker of reality pierced his hopeful bubble. Was his vision enough? Could he adapt quickly enough to survive in an unfamiliar terrain rife with competition? Melissa's gaze held his, as if sensing the doubt drinking at his resolve. Remember, these are just steps. You're not alone in this. We'll navigate it together. Her reassurances settled into him, but the question lingered. What if the depths of this industry revealed more than he was ready to confront? As he left, their next meeting in focus, a gnawing unease paired with determination settled over him. Could this truly be the path that would lead him to success? He gazed at the city skyline, an expanse of dreams and challenges reflecting in the glass. He'd claimed this spark of ambition. Now it was time to fan it into a flame. What revelations lay ahead, waiting to shape his journey, even if they turned dark? Dave's heart raced as he sat across from a diverse group of local business owners. The tension in the air felt heavy, and he couldn't tell if it was excitement or anxiety tethering him to his chair. This was his first formal pitch, a culmination of weeks spent dissecting his ideas, fueled by Melissa's tenacity and guidance. "Thank you for joining me today," he started, his voice steady despite the whirlwind inside him. He watched their faces, struggling to interpret their expressions. "I'm here to share a vision, not just the ideas that fill a space, but to create something that breathes life into our community." As he spoke, he leaned forward, emphasizing his words with open palm gestures. This isn't just about creating a workspace. This is about nurturing talent, allowing innovation to flourish. I want to build a bridge for young minds to explore their creativity and skills." A silence stretched out. He could feel the scrutinizing eyes, weighing him, measuring his resolve against theirs. Somewhere in the depths of his mind, the lingering doubts began to claw at his confidence. Was he truly enough for this task? One man, wearing a neatly pressed suit, cleared his throat. "You've painted a compelling picture, but how do you plan to face the challenges that lie ahead? What about the other co-working spaces in the area?" A fair question, one that was seated in his greatest fear. Dave straightened his back, feeling the surge of adrenaline course through him. "Every competitor has their strengths. My approach is unique. I aim to create partnerships with educational institutions and local businesses to cultivate an ecosystem of innovation. My personal journey drives this vision. I'm not just a businessman, I'm a father who understands the need for support when chasing dreams." As he spoke, an image of his daughter flickered in his mind, a source of warmth flooding his heart. He realized it was not just his passion he needed to convey, but his purpose, deeply rooted in his experiences. The woman next to the suited man, her arms crossed tightly, regarded him with skepticism. "But what will happen if you fail to garner interest? What's your backup plan?" A backup plan. The phrase echoed ominously within him, each syllable laced with a weight he hadn't accounted for. "I believe that failure is merely feedback. It teaches resilience and adaptation. If interest isn't immediate, I'll regroup. I'll reach out, ask questions, and learn where the gaps are. Pivoting isn't defeat, it's part of the process." As the dialogue continued, he could feel his footing becoming more confident. Each question forced him to reassess not only his business model, but his underlying motivations. With every response, he became not just a presenter of ideas, but an advocate for everything he believed in, standing firmly behind his commitment. After what felt like an eternity, the room began to crack open like a shell, revealing nods of cautious agreement. He could see he was starting to win them over. Not entirely, but a small crack in their defenses had emerged. Then a gnawing fear overtook him again, more visceral than before. What would happen if this didn't materialize? This wasn't just about business. It was about the legacy he wanted for his daughter. "Think fast, adapt, and embrace the journeys of others," he reminded himself, focusing back on the questions. One man who had remained silent leaned in. "Every journey has its challenges, but I appreciate your forthrightness. Tell me, how will you ensure sustainability in the long term?" That was it. A straightforward inquiry, yet he sensed the stakes were higher now. Sustainability wasn't just a plan, it was a necessity. In that moment, he recognized the truth. This pitch extended far beyond the confines of that room. It was a testament to his growth, his evolution as a father and an innovator. Feeling the energy shift, he answered, his voice resolute. "This will be a hub of collaboration, mentorship, and shared resources. Engaging the community and fostering an environment of ongoing education is vital. The goal isn't just to sustain, but to evolve continuously." As he concluded, a silence enveloped the room, the air charged with anticipation. Will they see me for who I am? He thought, a creeping uncertainty pushing against the hard-won confidence he'd gained. What lingered in the air was palpable yet unquantifiable, the breath before the plunge. Did he have what it took to continue this journey? And just as the meeting reached a climax of tension, a challenge emerged, one that threatened to unravel all he had prepared for. "Let's talk specifics," the suited man said. Where would this negotiation take him? What sacrifices would he need to make to transform vision into reality? He swallowed hard, prepared to confront any challenges, but now aware that the real test was still ahead. The suited man leaned forward, a glint of challenge in his eye. Let's break down your financial projections, Dave. If you're serious about this vision, we need concrete numbers, not just aspirations. Dave felt his stomach drop. This wasn't an abstract conversation anymore. This was a confrontation with the numbers, with the truth of what could make or break his dream. He had rehearsed for this moment, but the reality washed over him like a chill. Of course, I have projections outlined in this document. He handed over a thick folder, the glossy cover almost mocking his uncertainty. As the man flipped through the pages, Dave's mind spiraled through a series of scenarios, most of them unfavorable. What if the numbers didn't appeal? What if they found flaws in his projections? Each thought sparked a flicker of doubt. He clenched his fists, centering himself in this critical moment. "Here is your expected revenue for the first year," the man said, his eyes not meeting Dave's. "But there seems to be a gap between the potential earnings and your expenditure. You need funds for staffing, utilities, marketing. How exactly do you plan to cover these costs?" Dave's heart pounded like a drum in his ears. This was it, the moment he couldn't afford to falter. "I plan to create a tiered membership program that provides accessibility while generating consistent income. By partnering with local businesses, we can offer joint workshops and resources. The community aspect will not only elevate visibility, but drive customer loyalty." Her skeptical gaze cut into him once again. "And if your partnerships don't pull through as expected? If businesses don't come on board?" A wave of frustration began to surmount his fear. "I believe they'll see the value in investing in the local entrepreneurial spirit," he countered, the defensive air shifting back to conviction. "If community members can visually see how this space breathes life into their projects, they will support it." The unyielding expressions of scrutiny bore into him, each face becoming a specter of doubt. Yet amidst that tension, he pieced together a sudden realization. It wasn't just the numbers at stake, but the intangible essence of belief. He didn't just want to create a business. He wanted to cultivate a legacy, reassuring himself that beyond profit margins, it was the relationships, the mentorships, and the opportunities he could foster that truly mattered. They needed to believe he could lead this vision into reality. "Let me add," he continued, his voice gaining strength, "if my projections fall short in the first year, I will initiate an evaluation plan. We'll engage feedback, adjust the offerings, and maintain a pulse on community needs. Failure will serve as a roadmap, not an endpoint." The suited man raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Ambitious, but it's easier said than done. You're taking on a lot of responsibility here, especially with a young daughter at home. Are you sure you're ready for this?" The question sank deep into his consciousness, amplifying that persistent fear which had shadowed him throughout the meeting. Was he really fit to balance this overwhelming endeavor alongside his role as a father? The weight of that inquiry almost derailed him. He felt exposed, as if everything, his dreams, ambitions, and personal life, stood naked before them. "I'm not just doing this for myself. I'm doing this to show my daughter what it means to fight for your dreams," Dave spoke softly, a newfound urgency in his tone. "I want her to learn that resilience comes from embracing risk, taking chances, and believing in something greater than yourself." The tension shifted again. A subtle acknowledgement filled the room. This was more than numbers. It was about passion and purpose. As the discussion progressed, doubts still tugged at his confidence. Then the suited man asked, "What's your plan for potential investors? Keeping them engaged long-term will be essential." The question hung heavier than before. It pressed against the fluttering wings of hope he was trying to nurture. Dave paused, grappling with the complexity of investor relationships. It was one thing to propose a business structure. It was another to cultivate lasting commitments grounded in trust and shared vision. His mind raced. How could he ensure they felt invaluable and not simply passive stakeholders? Suddenly, a clear idea surfaced, born from his own experiences. I plan to involve them in mentorship opportunities as well. They won't just have a financial stake. They'll be part of the journey toward our joint success, teaching and learning from the community themselves. In that moment, he realized this was not an ending, but a beginning. The challenge morphed into a new belief, one that could transform uncertainty into a collaborative endeavor. The stakes were climbing, pushing him to prepare for the next wave of questions. As silence enveloped the room once again, he sensed that battle between fear and determination rising within him. Depending on this pitch could lead to everything he desired, or impose unimaginable burdens. What if they see through my walls? He pondered, feeling the pulse of opportunity blending with anxiety. Would their next questions help him rise, or would they pull him under? Now, unshackled from the grip of doubt, the significance of his pursuit ignited a fierce flame. "Just hang on, Dave," he whispered inwardly. "You're in this fight for a reason, and they might just hold the key to unlocking the life you're striving for." As they leaned back, eyeing him for their final assessment, he couldn't help but wonder if truly stepping into his purpose would come at a cost beyond the ordinary. What further sacrifices would he have to uncover next? After weeks of navigating the labyrinth of ambition and fear, Dave sat on the worn leather couch in his living room, surrounded by sketches of his vision. The space, once filled with tension and uncertainty, hummed with potential energy. The vision he had pitched was taking concrete shape, rapidly transforming aspirations into a tangible blueprint. There were still challenges, endless hurdles in terms of funding, partnerships, and execution, but for the first time in months he felt something that had evaded him until now: confidence. The flickering of uncertainty in his gut had faded, replaced by a burning urgency fueled by purpose. As he prepared for the official launch of his community garage space, he reflected on the journey he had taken. Only a season ago, he had been a father mired in despair, desperately clinging to the dwindling hope of saving his daughter, Lily. Now every sketch resonated with promise, and every collaborative meeting bore seeds of potential. It had taken courage to embrace the uncertain road he had traveled, venturing into uncharted territory with Jack Harrington as his ally, moving beyond the confines of the garage and into the larger community. The partnership had begun as mere opportunity, but had evolved into something more profound, a shared mission that sought to uplift not just his family, but those like him grappling with adversity. The night before the launch, he gathered supplies in anticipation. The local paper had published an article praising both his and Jack's mission, generating a buzz around the community. Excitement danced within him, yet remnants of anxiousness lingered. Would they come? Would they see the value he envisioned? Could he keep this momentum alive? His kitchen table was littered with business plans, marketing materials, and personal letters he had penned to local investors and partners, all articulating his journey and ambition. For each meticulously crafted paper, Dave recognized a fundamental truth. He was no longer just a mechanic. Instead, he had transformed into an advocate for change, an entrepreneur who inspires resilience. Lily's laughter filled his mind, echoing against the stresses of responsibility. He could now envision her future in the vibrant community space, a landscape where she and others like her would flourish. Every decision weighed against this one truth: was it good enough for her? On launch day, he woke to the sun spilling through the windows, wrapping him in warmth. With the crowd's arrival edging closer, he donned a crisp shirt, a departure from his grease-covered coveralls. He stood tall. This was his day, a culmination of dreams and struggles. As people trickled into the garage, he greeted friends, community members, and a handful of skeptical business owners, each face holding the collective hopes of an entire neighborhood. But most importantly, Lily was there, her bright smile beaming as she mingled with the crowd, lending an air of purity to the occasion. Dave felt the squeeze of hands, each grasp lending validation to his work. As he introduced himself and articulated his vision during the official opening speech, words flowed with clarity and strength. He discussed more than the mechanics of the garage. He shared snippets of Lily's story, of his journey, of the late nights spent crafting dreams against a backdrop of despair. Success isn't just measured in profits, he declared, his voice unwavering. It's measured in our ability to create a place where dreams can flourish, where every setback is merely a stepping stone to something greater. With every word, the faces transformed from skepticism to inspiration. He actively engaged with the community, drawing them in, making them a fundamental part of the vision. It was more than just a business. This was a shared dream, a place alive with potential, a hub of innovation. With each partnership he solidified, every workshop he launched, he stepped further into his role, crafting a legacy not just for his daughter, but for all of them, the dreamers, the doers, and the ambitious souls learning to navigate the unpredictable. Days turned into successful weeks, and the community garage organically grew into a nexus of collaboration and education, enriching the lives of everyone it touched. Yet, amidst the operational victories, came moments of reflection. How far he had truly come. He had conquered not just obstacles, but self-doubt, carving out a space for his daughter amid the chaos. His heart swelled with a sense of accomplishment. Through a beam of light streaming through the garage door, Dave spotted Lily standing with a small group of neighborhood kids, laughing as they designed their own project ideas. The sight was the culmination of his journey, the realization that he had created something lasting, profound, and meaningful. Now, he stood not only as a mechanic, but a leader, a father, and a symbol of resilience. His journey had solidified an unwavering truth. Through struggle comes strength. Through vulnerability comes courage. Never again will I hide from uncertainty, he promised the future. He was ready to embrace every trial because he had proven to himself and to others that fulfillment arises from the very act of overcoming. So here they were, at this new junction, a wider outlook for the future, a deeper sense of familial bonds, and an understanding that they were capable of achievement beyond their wildest dreams. The garage buzzed, not just with work, but laughter, camaraderie, and belonging. In this moment, Dave found not just resolution, but transformation. The realization that he had become the architect of his destiny, and in doing so, had gifted his daughter a legacy rooted in love, purpose, and inspiration. As he gently pulled Lily aside and wrapped her in a hug, he knew that they could face anything together. Their lives had changed. This was just the beginning. Now seize your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that can inspire your even greater journey of personal overcoming. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for stories that matter. Comment your reactions and theories about this journey and what you think lies ahead. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread the inspiration.